you're going to be anabolic,
Hmm.
as you get older, it requires a singular focus to achieve that,
Yes. And that actually
right?
that is what I would like to talk about, right?
Got it. Yeah.
As we're getting
So,
older, how to become anabolic. Yeah.
yeah. So it's hard, right? So think about think about a teenager, right? They can, and think about even teenagers, they just eat calories, right? And they eat calories and they're so anabolically driven, they get big, right? So while nutrition plays a role, as long as they have calories, protein, how much yeah, it matters, they get big. It's sort of like it's different, but a cattle becomes, a ton, like a bull eating grass. So they're an anabolic machine, right? So teenagers are an anabolic growth machine, mTOR driven, energy sensing, all growing into how do we make these cells hypertrophy and multiply and grow. The signal, is what changes as we get older, right? So we're tending to focus on all the what nutrients, what this I can do, but it's like it's the signal that's changed. While the nutrients are important and it's what we need to use, we need to first make sure the signal is good. So, what are the signals for growth? Mitochondria, right? We need energy. If we don't have energy and we can't efficiently process energy, it's going to be really hard to get bigger. So it's difficult. So if someone has poor mitochondrial function, they're going to have a hard time, you know, getting big. There's workarounds that, but they're going to pay a price for that. If they have insulin resistance, which would be a sequelae of poor mitochondrial function, that correlates with difficulty in building muscle because you need insulin sensitivity, drive amino acids, and drive carbohydrates into the cell to produce energy. So there's another problem. If you don't have the signal, let's say your testosterone, right? Something I spent a lot of time. If testosterone is not either being produced in adequate amounts, which is a small percentage of the people have true hypogonadism, the majority have a metabolic sequelae of testosterone. And even guys who have normal, like decent total testosterone, their free testosterone is low because their binding globulin is high, which is a liver iron problem. And
Mhm.
if you can fix that, so you need testosterone, um, you need mTOR sensitivity, right? So if you're living a life of too many calories, never taking a break, never doing some intermittent hormesis fasting, etc. Now you have mTOR sort of resistance, and you need to figure out how to change that. So those are the sort of some of the big. There are others pieces to it, but those are the elephants in the room of why things change and why it's harder to maintain. And from a practical people have injuries, right?
Mm.
They're they have a shoulder problem, they have a knee problem, they have a back problem, so they can't do what they want to do. And I sort of throw in the other piece is because we don't have a good signal, um, people are now getting a little bit not desperate, but they're now finally waking up. They try and do everything at once, and we can't do everything at once. We can't. You can't fast and try and turn down mTOR and grow muscle at the same time. Like and to put on bulk, you can't be anabolic and not catabolic. You can't be anabolic and non-anabolic at the same time. It just doesn't work. Rapamycin, it's another discussion, can help with that mTOR
Hmm.
resistance, but it still doesn't mean you're going to put on muscle necessarily, unless that's the one issue that you're dealing with.
As we're getting older, how do we optimize the signal? So if we go down the gym, but how am I going to make the best effort to ensure that the work I do goes into building more muscle?
I would go back to one, making sure that some of those key factors are addressed. Um, So if you're focused on, you need to prepare. Okay. So if you're going to achieve or go on this anabolic journey, you need to make sure that you have all the tools to do it. So can your body function? Can you do the needed work that your body's going to require? Can you do you have the signaling possibilities, right? So it may be someone truly needs to fix metabolic function first. And I would say, yes, they do. So
Hmm.
fix metabolic function, fix mitochondrial function, at least up to a level, make sure hormones are in a good milieu, right? I love that word, milieu. Um, and and then you could say, okay, what do I want to achieve? Where I am, what's my visceral fat? Where I am? Okay, it's at a decent level. It's come down. Now, I'm making sure that maybe a simple thing to do is get enough protein, right? So giving the body enough of the amino acids. Then you could say, all right, now I'm going to go through some anabolic. I'm going to have a defined program, which I'm going to track, and I'm going to focus on this. So that doesn't mean, okay, I'm going to do all this strength training and I'm going to do an hour of VO2 max, zone two, and I'm going to, you just can't do it all. One, we don't have time. Two, that's not how we want to live our life. And three, you can't do it all. So if you're in an anabolic phase, focus on strength, recovery, and walk, right? Do walk and, maybe once a week do what you do at 4x4, or
Hmm.
do throw in some sprint training. If you can't run, that's okay. Do sprint training on a Carol bike, right? So just focus on easy, super slow, walking, right? That's not going to be catabolic. Some anabolic um, physical activity, a high intensity once a week, and then function on strength. But here's the key: as we get older, we don't recover as quickly, right?
Hmm.
So, um, how can we work that? Like, I remember my son is like 29. He works out twice a day, 6 days a week, and it's like you need to like not do this. And he goes, "Oh, I'm good." It's like, okay, you'll have a window. I'll help you, but like your window will close, so that's fine. He gets it per se, but he'll change things up. But what's the amount? So it's you want to push yourself, but then once you hit a level, I mean, especially if you're doing stuff for physical longevity, maybe you only need upper body once a week, maybe just need legs once a week. Heck, I'll throw back to Martinique. I was away for a week. I didn't do legs at all for 8 days. I came back because I've been doing some hiking and one leg rock climbing. I had a really good leg workout. It's like, whoa, that's cool, right? I actually got better without doing anything after 8 days. It's like, wow, that's like a cat, right? So
Yeah.
how nice is that, right? If your body is maintaining muscle without having to force it to do it. So the other piece is that overtraining, you need to, it's not the action of the the physical movement, it's the recovery where we grow. So
Mm.
it's sleep, and that's like the executives, they don't sleep. It's like 4 hours a night. It's like how are you going to recover? How are you going to get stronger? It's like so it's the piece that we don't pay attention to is the protein getting enough, and it's a debatable. We can talk about that in a little bit, I suppose. But those are the pieces. The the thing that is very helpful that I use is blood flow restriction bands
Hmm.
and Katsu, Kaatsu. And Joe Mercola talks a lot about them as well. He's a big fan. But Katsu, they've done good studies with sarcopenia. Katsu bands are um, air-driven sort of bladders that look like small blood pressure cuffs, and they're linked to a small pump, and they pump up to 350 to 450 psi on a gradual up and down, and it causes this flexibility in the veins, and you get a restriction. So you actually wind up not clearing blood, and the acid buildup causes a mild irritation. your body thinks though that it worked out a lot harder, right? So the body normally says, I had to go to real failure to achieve that signal. So that signal creates a growth hormone response in the same way that you would if you had used a lot more weight, which maybe you can't do or would have caused injury. So the Katsu's bands, instead of pushing heavier weight to get the same effect, and the other key to it is when you push heavier weight, you actually tear muscle fibers,
Hmm.
right? And it's that repair the muscle fibers that require time to recover. But with the Katsu, you're simulating that injury causes the hormonal response. You get the anabolic response without tearing the tissues. So you can actually do it more frequently. And the other benefit is instead of having to go to 80% max, you can actually burn out with more reps at 30% and 30 to 40%. So it's a really cool workaround. And it's like I don't like working out without them. And you can do some variations, but that's a real nice way to get more out of what you need to do. And you could travel with those and get actually a decent workout with like a TRX band or even body weight, because now the body weight workouts become more efficient and more purposeful for the body, if that makes sense.
Mm. Yes, I'll
Yeah,
definitely
that's
have
that's
to
a
look into
that's a
that.
super tool.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Interesting. So yes,
yeah,
I did want to talk about protein, actually. So
protein,
yeah, protein. So a
protein. Oh
couple
my
of
god,
things. One is just overall how much, and essential amino acids. Do they add value,
got it.
and in what way?
Yeah. So in the longevity space, right? So if we go to the bodybuilding space and go to practitioners who function on muscle centric medicine and physicians and coaches that function on um, maintaining functionality. It's all about protein, right? It's protein as a satiety signal. It's protein as a metabolic trigger, right? Because we don't use protein really to create energy. We only use protein in a gluconeogenesis if we're in a catabolic mode. So it's a way down. It's not part of the Krebs cycle. It's not part of the TCA cycle. So protein is the foundation which we're built. The amount, it could be, point 0.8, if we go per pound, zero point 0.8 grams per pound. So typically I'm 160. I shoot for about 120 grams a day would be ideal. If you're in a stressful mode, you might need more,
Mhm.
right? And that's really hard to get. The corollary is the longevity space, who says, "Oh, you need to go super low because there's some studies in rats," and you just get into this big debate on what's right. And my feeling is two on that. One is we're all different, and I always go back to, you know what? If you have good muscle mass, if you have low visceral fat, and your mitochondrial function is strong, you have good hormonal levels, and if you can do that on zero protein or 40 grams of protein a day, and I don't see any markers of deficiency, albeit, Godspeed to someone who's doing that. It's really, really hard to do that. And I've seen very few people do that. Is it possible? Perhaps. Um, the other the other piece is we're all different, so our needs are different. So I try not to say there's a global, this is what the study showed. It's like when you see a study, it's like it's an indication. It's
Mhm.
something that we should put into our tool belt because for every study, there is a study that says something else, right? And if there's a study like just like this week, one of the goals, especially in bodybuilding and muscling, it's like, you know, how many different theories and changes and sets and recoveries. And just this week, the feeling was, oh, there's a limit to how much protein you can get um, after working out that'll have a benefit because you oxidize it, and at some point you're not going to be more anabolic than that 3 grams of leucine triggers. Well, the study says no, that's not right. So
Yeah.
this foundation of belief is now at least someone saying isn't correct. So it's like, so we want to be careful about hooking yourself to a particular piece because it may have been studied and they completely at the time didn't look at a particular factor that now they one could measure and two you were aware of. If we don't know something existed, you know,
Mhm.
go back in science. We used to think it was phlegm and bile, and we didn't know anything. So that we interpret it within the best of our knowledge of the day, and sometimes things are forgotten. Sometimes it's just carried on within a graduate study research course because that's where the money is. So I'm always challenged by what to believe and what not to believe. So having said that, when I work with people, if they don't get enough protein, it affects their hunger and their metabolic health. So if I go back to metabolic health mitochondria for me as the most important thing in maintaining muscle, having enough protein is the cornerstone. If you look at CGM and glucose monitors, eat protein and vegetables first, you don't get the spike. Eat the carbohydrates without the protein, you get the spike. So that's not a good thing. And
Mhm.
can you do that vegetarian wise or low protein? Yes, but then you're missing out on other factors, right? Other key animal factors. So, and that concerns me. And that's another topic for another day. But so I'm weighing on the side of get enough protein.
Mhm.
If you can prove to me you can't, you can do it without it, great. Um, but it's a lot easier with the protein to get it done. And theoretically, the methionine argument, and I don't is it going to give you a few more years? I don't know. Right? Because the rats live a little longer. That's not an ultimate answer. I think if you're doing everything right as a global, we'll be fine. And if we can't figure out how to go longer than that in the next 10, 20 years, then it really doesn't matter to
Mhm.
live functionally strong.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Um,
So, amino acids, essential amino
yeah.
acids. Yeah. So that is, with as the katsu is a really cool tool to sort of trick the body, not trick the body, or to sort of advance your purpose. An essential amino acid blend works the same way. Um, to be able to get these key essential amino acids into your body within 20 minutes, into the cell and create an anabolic mode where you have the amino acids in the blood ready to go where they're needed to be to repair, not have to be broken down. And that's right. So when you eat proteins, you have to digest them, you have to then absorb them. Maybe your digestion's off, maybe the timing is off, maybe the protein you ate isn't completely full, so you have to wait for some other amino acids that come in later to rebuild. So it's a slower process. But if you
Mhm.
want quick ability, and then there's the calories and fats and everything that go with that. So an essential amino acid blend that provides those key nutrients can get in quick and give you an equivalent of 4 times the amount of dietary protein. So 10 grams of an essential amino acid blend that's properly formulated, based on studies that actually looked at this, is equivalent to about 40 grams of protein with virtually no calories that you can drink in 4 ounces in 15 seconds, right? So to me, I have essentially, it's one of the cornerstone products that we eventually worked with was I work out, I have my amino acid blend, and I'm done. And now I've gotten 40 grams of protein to cover me. And, later afternoon, I'll do the same thing. And it makes it a lot easier to get, if I have a protein drink blender in the morning, again, easier. I use a collagen hydro beef base. So it
Hmm.
gives glycine. That's one of the key, and you've talked about the importance of glycine and proline. So to be able to get glycine
Hmm.
along with an amino acid spectrum, so now you've had an easy way to do it, and you have your amino acids. Now you're up to like 70. I'm up to 70 grams of protein. So now I have two meals. I
Hmm.
have dinner and 25 to 30 grams, 25 grams of protein each, and I hit 120. I'm close enough, right? Could I push it higher? I could, but it's like, all right, I'm not, for me right now, I'm not overly focused on growth. I'm holding, I think I'm good enough and I want to maintain. But if I wanted to go into an anabolic cycle, if I said, when I've done this in the past, if you wanted to say, okay, I want to focus on growth, then you also need to go to more calories. And, that was the work, can you do it all in protein and ketosis? No, like look at bodybuilders. They know that they cut out carbohydrates and fat when they want to cut, right? When they want to grow, it's proteins and carbohydrates because you need to drive insulin
Hmm.
up. The beauty is if you're good, like if your mTOR is sensitive and you're insulin sensitive and you're eating carbohydrates, especially after doing heavy workouts, and you only do it for 3 or 4 weeks, you're not becoming insulin resistant, right? So, are you, you know, then you're weighing, okay, you have to balance between, am I pushing anabolic nature too much? And in a month, no. So you can put on muscle, put on fat, and then you go into a cut phase, lose a little muscle, lose a little bit more fat, and then do it again. So if people really want to gain muscle, cycle, right? Cycle a month on, a month off, a month. You can even do 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off as well. And it's something that philosophy I'm sort of building into an mTOR cycle as well. You can, depending on how complicated or how focused people want to do, but that's the way we should think of things because it's never all off and all on. Both ways are going to get you into trouble. All off gets you Roy Wolford,
Hmm.
in the biosphere, right? All on gets you to be most Americans, right? So that doesn't work either, right? That doesn't work either. So balancing it based on your own needs.
Excellent. Yeah, I think I need to do that.
A couple other tricks like for muscle sprinting, right? So it's the sprinter
Hmm.
versus the long distance runner. It's that classic picture of the
Right.
muscular sprinter and the emaciated long distance runner. So obviously those are, I wouldn't say parodies, but those are extremes. But
Mm.
it does give you a sense of hard, fast movement versus, zone 3, 4 long endurance, and that's catabolic versus anabolic.
Right.
So that's important. Supplements, anything that can produce energy. I mean, I think we tend to get focused and partly marketing, right?
Hmm.
What we can sell to people. And I think it's what we can sell to people versus people looking for an easy solution and an easy answer. Like, oh, this could make me work. So creatine certainly been very well studied. Um, Creatine helps energy production, and anything that is going to help energy production is going to help you have a better workout or a stronger workout. If you can have a stronger workout, you're going to have more challenge to the tissues, more signaling to the milieu, and you're going to have a better response and you might have better recovery. Honestly, if you're that stuck, if you truly want to get a response, so throw some creatine in. There's no
Hmm.
harm in it. It has some benefits to the mitochondria. Use deprin, select use I'm sorry, enclomiphene. If someone were to truly, if we were concerned, right? So if we truly, if people are taking rapamycin and they want to do that, then, and if you truly having an anabolic signaling issue, when you're signaling off push testosterone up for 3 weeks. Use HCG or enclomiphene or use follistatin. Like if you're going to do something and you truly want to do it and you're already doing rapamycin, you've already sort of opened that can, you might as well use its its partner in anabolic, and that's going to give you that extra push. So to dabble around with a little bit of this, these weak signaling, not that they're not useful, but if you have the ability and access, then use the stuff that we know is going to be powerful and then just come off of it. There's no harm. I don't think we're not 17-year-old, football players, right? We're trying to stay healthy. So if there's molecules out there, and for some reason, anabolic molecules have gotten a bad name because of the 17-year-old football players, right? And testosterone was evil. And I'll take it back even further. This is go research Kellogg's and Battle Creek, Michigan, right? Are you aware that how that got started? And then
I have
you probably aren't, right?
no.
So they're right. So Kellogg, why they founded this dietary sanitarium in Michigan, it
Hmm.
was to promote grains, promote their
Hmm.
use of grains, because that was it. Please don't take this as any religious, but it was in the Bible that the use of grains would calm the urges in young men. So it was all about reducing testosterone and sexual urges in young men. And they were very devout in their biblical studies. And that was what they felt was important.
Hmm.
So that you can read the story of this, and that's how sort of the dietary pyramid sort of evolved as Kellogg's became a company and called cereal, and they figured out how to deliver cereals in a dried, non-spoiling package to the population, which then became monetized, which then became part of the triangle, the
Hmm.
pyramid, I'm sorry, in the 70s, which was a particular religiously um, devout person who felt that this was the best thing to do, and that became part of governmental policy. Um, but
Hmm.
testosterone, the same thing, was part of more of a religious piece on too much testosterone, too much anabolic growth, and someone died, as a youth. Not saying that you should take testosterone, but it became this bad thing. I'm fully aware because I was in testosterone field. And it took us till 2005 to say, wait, testosterone not bad, like testosterone good. It's still a control. So it's a controlled substance. It's
Hmm.
it's on the same level of control as opioids and narcotics. That's crazy. It's it's because it's a political issue. So if we're going to use something, you want to push testosterone, not replace it. I'm not a big replacement fan because you're suppressing natural production. Use it, but use it in with someone of knowledge,
Hmm.
and and pulse it, and then come off of it because that's the goal to have growth.